John Miller frowned at his computer screen. The signal pattern didn't make sense. After 15 years at SETI, he knew random space noise when he saw it. This was different. This was structured. This was artificial. He took off his glasses and rubbed his tired eyes. The clock on the wall showed 2:17 a.m. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. "Computer, run sequence analysis again," he said, voice rough from too much coffee. The screen flickered, displaying the same results. John's heart raced. The signal was repeating every 147 seconds, with mathematical precision that couldn't possibly be natural. He reached for his phone with shaking hands and called Susan Brooks. Susan was not happy to be woken up at 2:20 a.m. As head of NASA's newly formed Extraterrestrial Defense Initiative, she received plenty of false alarms. "This better be important, John," she said, voice thick with sleep. "I found something, Susan. Something real." 12 hours later, Susan stood in front of multiple screens displaying the signal data. Her team of scientists spoke in hushed, excited voices around her. "It's approaching from the Kuiper Belt," said Alan Parker, pointing to a trajectory map. "Whatever it is, it's big. And it's fast." "Could be a comet," Susan suggested, but she didn't believe it. "Comets don't emit radio signals," John reminded her. "And comets don't travel at 30% light speed." The phone rang. It was the Pentagon. Meanwhile, aboard the Craxian flagship, Fleet Commander Vexlar studied the holographic display of the blue-green planet. His scaled skin shimmered under the ship's lights as he flicked a three-fingered hand through the projection. "Scan complete," Commander reported Science Officer Mestok. "The natives have achieved nuclear capability and rudimentary space travel. Level 2 civilization at best." Vexlar made a chattering sound that passed for laughter among his species. "Primitive. Their most advanced weapons couldn't penetrate our scout ship shields. They call their planet Earth," Mestok continued. "Rich in water, minerals, and biological diversity. Ideal for colonization after the cleansing." Vexlar nodded. "The High Council will be pleased. This conquest will be simpler than the Nerethi campaign." "Should we proceed with standard protocols?" "Yes. Begin with military installations. Once their defenses are eliminated, we'll start resource extraction." Back on Earth, President Diane Carter faced a room full of grim-faced military leaders and scientists. "You're telling me we have alien spacecraft approaching Earth?" she asked, voice steady despite her shock. General Doug Peterson nodded. "Satellite imagery confirmed it 30 minutes ago. Multiple objects, massive in size. How long do we have?" "They'll reach Earth orbit in approximately 18 hours. The president turned to Susan. "Dr. Brooks, what are we dealing with?" Susan shook her head. "Unknown, Madam President. But based on their technology and speed, they're centuries ahead of us. At MIT, William Porter was working late in his quantum physics lab when his computer pinged with a classified email. His security clearance as a government consultant meant he was among the first civilians to learn the truth. He downloaded the data files attached to the message, energy signatures detected from the approaching vessels. "This isn't possible," he whispered, running simulation after simulation. But the results were always the same. The aliens were using quantum field manipulation for propulsion, and if his calculations were correct, for their weapons systems too. William sat back in his chair, a strange calm settling over him. The approaching aliens had technology far beyond Earth's capabilities, but their energy systems had a fundamental vulnerability, one that might just give humanity a fighting chance. He picked up his phone to call Susan Brooks. She needed to see this immediately. In their final approach to Earth, Vexlar addressed his invasion fleet. "Warriors of Kraxos, today we add another world to our glorious empire. The natives are weak and disorganized. Victory is certain." The Craxian ships engaged their cloaking fields as they entered Earth's solar system, invisible to all but the most advanced human sensors. They thought Earth would be easy prey. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The sky turned red as the Craxian warships dropped their cloaking fields. Massive oval shapes hovered over major cities across the globe. New York, London, Beijing, Moscow. Each ship was nearly a mile long, blocking out the sun and casting giant shadows below. People stopped in streets, pointing upward. Cell phones recorded shaky videos as traffic halted. Some ran, some prayed, some just stared, frozen in disbelief. In the White House Situation Room, President Diane Carter watched multiple screens showing the ships worldwide. Her face was pale but determined. "Get me on every channel," she ordered. "Radio, TV, internet. Everyone needs to hear this." Minutes later, she faced the camera. "My fellow Americans and citizens of the world. As you can see, we are not alone in the universe. We don't yet know the intentions of our visitors, but I urge everyone to remain calm and stay in your homes until we establish communication." Even as she spoke, the first attacks began. The Craxian ships fired blue energy beams at military bases across the globe. Andrews Air Force Base disappeared in a blinding flash. Naval fleets in the Pacific vaporized instantly. Underground missile silos in Russia exploded from within. William Porter watched the devastation on TV from his MIT lab. He had been working nonstop since discovering the potential weakness in the alien energy signatures. Come on," he muttered, running another simulation. His phone rang. It was Susan Brooks. "William, please tell me you have something," she said, voice tight with stress. "I think so. Their weapons and shields both use a quantum field that resonates at a specific frequency. If we can generate a counter-frequency." "How long?" "Days, maybe. If I had a working example of their technology," I cooled. "Stand by," Susan interrupted. Aboard the Craxian command ship, Vexlar watched with satisfaction as Earth's military capabilities were systematically destroyed. "Resistance is minimal," reported his tactical officer. "Their aircraft approach, but their weapons can't penetrate our shields." "As expected," said Vexlar. "Begin Phase 2. Broadcast the terms of surrender." On every TV, radio, and digital device on Earth, the alien message played. A computer-generated voice speaking perfect English. "People of Earth, we are the Craxian Empire. Your military forces have been neutralized. Surrender within 48 hours or face planetary bombardment. Your leaders will submit to Craxian authority. Your resources now belong to the Empire. Resistance is futile and will result in unnecessary destruction." In a secret underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Susan Brooks gathered with military leaders and scientists. The facility, built during the Cold War, was one of the few command centers still operational. "We've lost 70% of our military capability," said General Peterson. "Air Force is down. Navy is crippled. Communications disrupted." "What about nuclear options?" asked a grim-faced official. "We launched 3 ICBMs at the ship over Kansas City," the general replied. "They detonated against some kind of shield. No effect." Susan stepped forward. "Dr. Porter at MIT has identified a potential weakness in their technology, but he needs a sample to work with." "We might have that," said a voice from the doorway. Greg Mitchell walked in, his Special Forces uniform torn and bloody. "My team captured a downed scout ship in Colorado. Small craft, 2 alien crew, both dead." Susan's eyes widened. "Intact technology." Greg nodded. "Mostly. Being transported here now." Across the globe, similar meetings took place in hidden bunkers and secure facilities. In Beijing, scientists studied alien transmission patterns. In Moscow, engineers repurposed old Soviet weapons with new guidance systems. Lisa Winters, working from a makeshift office in her Seattle apartment, broke through her 5th cup of coffee. As one of the world's top cybersecurity experts, she had been tasked with analyzing the alien communications. "Got you," she whispered as patterns emerged in the data stream. The aliens were using an incredibly complex encryption, but there were systemic similarities to Earth mathematics, weaknesses she could exploit. She sent an encrypted message to Susan. Can hack their comms. Need 36 hours. As night fell across America, the Craxian ships remained motionless in the sky, their very presence a silent threat. The 48-hour deadline ticked away. But humanity was not idle, and they were not beaten yet. The United Nations emergency session looked nothing like the usual meetings. Delegates huddled in a bunker beneath Geneva, their faces lit by emergency lights. Many nations had lost their leaders in the first wave of attacks. Those who remained looked tired and afraid. Dr. Karen Taylor stood at the front of the room. At 42, she was the youngest head of weapons research at DARPA in history. Now she might be humanity's best hope. The alien technology is beyond anything we've seen, she said, projecting images from the captured scout ship. But Dr. Porter's theory is correct. Their energy systems have a specific vulnerability. On the screen, complex diagrams showed the quantum field generators that powered the Craxian ships. We can create a resonance cascade that will disrupt their shields and weapons, Karen continued. But we need time to build the necessary devices, and we need them deployed globally. In the back of the room, Chinese and Russian scientists nodded in agreement. Their own analysis had reached similar conclusions. How long? Asked the acting Secretary General. 36 hours at minimum, Karen replied. We're calling it Project Eclipse. The deadline is in 32 hours, someone pointed out. Then we need to buy time, said the French representative. We pretend to negotiate. Meanwhile, Greg Mitchell led his team through dark woods outside Denver. The moonlight reflected off their night vision goggles. Each soldier carried pieces of modified equipment based on the captured alien tech. Target is 2 miles ahead, Greg whispered into his radio. Scout ship landed to investigate our fake distress signal. His 12-person team moved silently through the trees. Their mission: capture more Craxian technology, and if possible, a live alien for interrogation. At MIT, William Porter hadn't slept in 30 hours. He studied the alien materials under powerful microscopes. The metal wasn't like anything on Earth. It seemed to shift at the atomic level, adapting to energy inputs. Incredible, he muttered. His phone chimed with a message from Karen Taylor. Making progress. How's your end? William texted back. Better than expected. Sending new data now. In Seattle, Lisa Winters had transformed her living room into a command center. 3 computers ran simultaneously, each attacking different aspects of the Craxian communication system. They're organized like a classic military hierarchy, she explained to Susan Brooks via secure video call. All commands flow from the largest ship, the one over Washington, D.C. Can you disrupt their communications? Susan asked. Not yet, but I can listen in. And they're worried about something. What? They detected unusual energy readings from our scientists studying their technology. They're sending scout ships to investigate. Susan's face hardened. That's good and bad. Good because they're concerned. Bad because they might find our research facilities. Across the globe, Project Eclipse took shape. In underground labs and hidden bunkers, scientists worked frantically. Regular people helped too. Amateur radio operators relayed messages. Truck drivers transported equipment. Former military personnel organized defense groups. The public story was different. On open channels, Earth's remaining leaders appeared to argue about surrender terms. They requested meetings with Craxian representatives. They asked for more time. Aboard the command ship, Vexler grew impatient. The humans waste our time with these delays, he told his officers. They think we don't notice their activities. Should we attack now? Asked his second-in-command. No, let them believe their deception works. It amuses me. Vexlar's mouthparts clicked together in their version of a smile. Besides, what can they possibly develop in a few hours that could threaten us? In the Rocky Mountain facility, President Carter met with Susan Brooks and military leaders. How ready is Project Eclipse? the president asked. Prototypes are working, Susan replied. We need 18 more hours for full deployment. And if the Craxians attack before then? Susan exchanged glances with General Peterson. We have a backup plan. Captain Frank Rivers is preparing a squadron with experimental weapons. They're not as effective as Eclipse will be, but they might surprise the Craxians. A surprise is exactly what we need, said the president. Tell Captain Rivers his pilots will have the thanks of every human on Earth. Outside, the massive Craxian ships still hung in the sky like dark promises. The deadline for surrender approached. But humanity wasn't planning to surrender. Humanity was planning to fight back. 3 hours before the surrender deadline, Captain Frank Rivers climbed into the cockpit of his modified F-35 fighter jet. The normally sleek aircraft now had bulky attachments under its wings, experimental weapons based on the captured Craxian technology. How do these things work again? Frank asked the technician helping him strap in. They create a matching frequency to the alien shields, the technician explained. Should create a brief window where your missiles can get through. Frank nodded. Should. The technician shrugged. Nobody's tested it against their big ships yet. 12 fighters sat ready on the hidden airfield, disguised under a forest canopy. Each pilot knew this might be a one-way mission. Frank switched on his radio. Thunder Squadron, check in. One by one, his pilots responded. Their voices were steady despite the impossible odds they faced. In the command bunker, President Carter gave the final authorization. Operation Thunderstrike is go. May God be with them. Lisa Winter's voice came through the speakers. I've created a distraction in their systems. Their sensors will be compromised for about 3 minutes. That's our window, Frank told his pilots. Remember, hit the weak points near their engine sections. Don't waste shots on the main hull. The fighters roared into the night sky, racing toward the massive Craxian ship hovering over what remained of Chicago. On the Craxian command ship, alarms suddenly blared. What's happening? Demanded Vexlar. Communications disruption, reported a technician, and strange energy signatures approaching the Chicago vessel. Primitive aircraft. Another officer reported dismissively. Our shields will. The officer never finished his sentence. On the monitor, the Chicago ship's shield flickered as the human fighters fired their strange weapons. For a brief moment, the shield failed completely. Conventional missiles struck the ship's vulnerable engine section, creating a massive explosion. Vexlar watched in shock as the huge warship tilted and began to fall. Impossible, he whispered. Frank's voice echoed through the human command center. Direct hit. Their ship is going down. Cheers erupted from the staff. On screens, they watched the massive alien vessel crash into Lake Michigan, sending giant waves toward the shore. All fighters, regroup and head for the Toronto target, Frank ordered. But the Craxians recovered quickly. Energy beams lanced out from the remaining ships. 3 human fighters vanished instantly, then 2 more. Evasive maneuvers, Frank shouted. His jet rolled wildly as blue energy passed just below his wing. In the Craxian command ship, Vexlar's initial shock turned to fury. How did they do this? He demanded. Their weapons are primitive. They've adapted our technology somehow, an officer replied. They must have captured one of our scouts. Destroy them all, Vexlar ordered. Begin the bombardment now. No more delays. Around the world, Craxian ships unleashed their full firepower. Cities disappeared in blinding flashes. The death toll climbed into the millions within minutes. Frank watched helplessly as Denver vanished in a flash of light. They're hitting everything now, he reported, voice hollow. Only 4 of his fighters remained. They managed to damage one more alien ship before the last pilot was shot down. Frank aimed his final missile at the command ship over Washington. This is for Earth, he said, pressing the launch button. The missile streaked toward the massive vessel. A blue energy beam reached out from the ship, Frank closed his eyes as his fighter disintegrated around him. His missile hit the ship's shield and exploded harmlessly. In the mountain bunker, despair threatened to overtake the command staff. "We've lost Thunder Squadron," reported General Peterson. "All pilots down." Susan Brooks entered the room, face grim but determined. "Captain Rivers bought us the time we needed. Project Eclipse is ready." "How many devices do we have?" asked the president. 312 worldwide, Susan replied. "Not as many as we wanted, but they're in position." Karen Taylor stepped forward. "The devices are networked. When activated, they'll create a resonance field that will cascade through their entire fleet. But we can only do this once. The power requirements are enormous." The president looked at the screens showing the worldwide devastation. Millions dead, cities in ruins, and still the alien ships hung in the sky, seemingly invincible. "Do it," she ordered. Karen nodded and pressed a button on her tablet. Across the globe, Project Eclipse activated. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Project Eclipse devices hummed quietly in their hidden locations around the world. They looked simple, just metal boxes with antennas, but inside them was humanity's most advanced technology combined with reverse-engineered Craxian systems. In the mountain bunker, Karen Taylor watched the readings on her tablet. "Energy levels building," she reported. 30 seconds to full resonance. William Porter stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the power graphs. "If this works, the effect should cascade through their entire fleet." "And if it doesn't?" asked General Peterson. William didn't answer. They all knew what failure meant. Aboard the Craxian command ship, Vexillar was planning the final phase of Earth's destruction when a junior officer approached hesitantly. "Commander, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the surface. More of their primitive weapons." Vexillar asked dismissively. "No, sir. It's—" The officer looked confused. "It's resonating with our shield frequencies." Vexillar turned sharply. "What? Show me." Before the officer could respond, the ship's lights flickered. Then alarm signals blared from every console. "Shield integrity dropping," shouted the tactical officer. 70%. 60%. "How is this possible?" Vexillar demanded, slamming his three-fingered hand on the console. "They can't have weapons that advanced." Greg Mitchell and his team crouched in the ventilation shaft of the Craxian command ship. Getting aboard had cost them 3 team members, but they'd succeeded in planting disruptor devices throughout the vessel. "Eclipse is working," Greg whispered into his radio. "Their systems are failing." Susan's voice responded in his earpiece. "Can you reach the main power core?" Greg checked the stolen alien schematics on his tablet. "Negative. Too many guards, but we've planted enough disruptors to amplify the eclipse effect." He watched through a vent as Craxian crew members ran through the corridors, their usual calm replaced by panic. In cities worldwide, people looked up to see the massive alien ships beginning to drift. Strange light patterns rippled across their hulls. Some ships started to descend slowly, no longer able to maintain altitude. Lisa Winters monitored the Craxian communications from her apartment. Their encrypted signals were breaking down, becoming readable. "They're panicking," she told Susan over her secure line. "Ships are reporting cascading system failures. They don't understand what's happening. Can they counteract it?" "They're trying." But Lisa smiled as she decoded more messages. "They can't figure out how we're doing this. They thought we were too primitive to understand their technology." In the mountain bunker, Karen's tablet showed a map of the world with green dots representing each eclipse device. The dots pulsed in perfect synchronization, creating a global network of energy that targeted the specific vulnerabilities in Craxian technology. "It's working," Karen said, her voice barely a whisper. "Their shields are down to 20% worldwide." President Carter turned to General Peterson. "Launch everything we have left. Every missile, every fighter. Hit them while they're vulnerable." Across the globe, humanity's remaining military forces mobilized. Fighter jets scrambled. Missile silos opened. Naval vessels emerged from hiding. This time, their weapons found targets. Without functioning shields, the Craxian ships were vulnerable to even conventional explosives. Smaller alien vessels began to fall from the sky. But the Craxians fought back. Despite their failing systems, they still had devastating weapons. Energy beams lashed out randomly, destroying whatever they touched. William Porter pointed to a reading on Karen's tablet. The command ship is adapting. They're trying to modify their shields. Can they block Eclipse? Susan asked. Not completely, but they might be able to reduce its effects. On the command ship, Vexillar ordered all power diverted to weapons. Destroy their major cities. All of them. Sir, we can't target accurately with these energy fluctuations, his tactical officer protested. I don't care, screamed Vexillar. Fire everywhere. Leave nothing alive. The command ship's main weapon began to charge, drawing enormous power. Despite the shields failing, they could still cause massive destruction. Greg Mitchell saw his opportunity. Team, target the main power conduits. Now, his soldiers activated the final disruptors, placed at critical junctions throughout the ship. The effect was immediate. Power surged and failed throughout the vessel. The charging weapons sputtered and went dark. What's happening? Vexillar demanded as the bridge lights failed. His answer came as human fighters appeared outside the viewports, missiles streaking toward the now vulnerable command ship. Explosions rocked the Craxian command ship as human missiles found their target. Without shields, the once invincible vessel shuddered with each impact. Sections of its hull broke apart, drifting away into the atmosphere. Inside, Greg Mitchell and his team ran through smoke-filled corridors. Emergency lights cast eerie red glows as Craxian crew members rushed past, not even noticing the humans in their panic. Command center is 3 levels up, Greg told his team. If we can capture Vexillar, this ends today. On the bridge, Vexillar watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet fell apart. Ships crashed into oceans and fields. Some collided with each other as their navigation systems failed. How? He kept asking. How did primitives do this? His second-in-command approached. Commander, we must abandon ship. The main reactor is becoming unstable. No. Vexillar slammed his fist down. The High Council will have my head if I return defeated by primitives. Sir, the humans somehow found our quantum resonance frequency. Our technology is useless now. Vexillar stared at the screens showing his dying fleet. His race had conquered 17 worlds across 3 star systems. No species had ever defeated them. Until now. In the mountain bunker, Susan Brooks watched satellite feeds of Craxian ships falling worldwide. Project Eclipse had exceeded all expectations. The alien fleet was in complete disarray. We need to capture their technology intact if possible, she told President Carter. This is our chance to advance centuries in a single day. Karen Taylor looked up from her tablet. The command ship's reactor is becoming unstable. If it explodes over Washington, the president nodded grimly. Contact Greg's team. Tell them to prioritize disabling that reactor. Lisa Winters broke into the conversation via video. I fully cracked their communication system. I can send a message directly to their ship. What kind of message? Susan asked. A fake order. I can make it look like it came from their high command. The president leaned forward. Tell them to land the ship. Say it's a direct order. Around the world, the situation had completely reversed. Craxian ships that had begun the day as unstoppable juggernauts now lay broken or struggling to stay airborne. Human fighter jets swarmed around them, firing at vulnerable points identified by Project Eclipse's scans. In London, Paris, and Beijing, people cautiously emerged from shelters to watch alien vessels crash in flames. After days of terror, hope began to spread. Humanity was fighting back and winning. Greg's team reached the bridge access corridor. Only 2 soldiers remained with him, Sam Jones and Linda Brown. The rest had been killed or separated during the chaotic infiltration. "Ready?" Greg asked, checking his weapon. They nodded grimly. Just as they prepared to breach the door, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A Craxian voice spoke in their language. Linda, who had studied the alien language from captured data, listened carefully. "It's an order from their high command," she said. "They're being told to land the ship immediately." "Lisa did it," Greg said with a grim smile. "Let's make sure they follow orders." They burst onto the bridge, weapons ready. Surprised Craxian officers turned, reaching for their own weapons, but the humans fired first. Stunning beams, modified from alien technology, dropped several officers. Vexlar stood at the center of the bridge, taller than the others, his scaled skin marked with the symbols of command. "Don't move," Greg ordered, aiming directly at him. The alien commander hissed, his mouthparts clicking in fury. "You think this is victory, human? My empire spans the stars. More ships will come." "Maybe," Greg replied, "but they'll find a very different Earth waiting for them." Linda stepped forward with a translator device. "Order your crew to land this ship. Now." For a moment, Vexler seemed ready to refuse. Then the ship shuddered again as another explosion rocked the hull. A support beam crashed down, narrowly missing him. He looked at the humans, at their determined faces, and something like respect flickered in his alien eyes. "Very well," he said finally. "You have won this battle." He turned to his remaining officers and gave the order to land. As the massive command ship slowly descended toward an empty field outside Washington, Susan's voice came through Greg's radio. "Mission accomplished," he reported. "We have their commander and their ship." In the mountain bunker, exhausted staff broke into cheers. President Carter closed her eyes briefly in relief. "Tell Greg and his team," she said to Susan, "that they've just saved Earth." 6 months after the invasion, John Miller stood on a hill overlooking the massive Craxian command ship. Once a symbol of terror, it now served as humanity's most advanced research facility. Scientists from every nation worked inside, studying alien technology and adapting it for human use. "Hard to believe it's only been half a year," said Susan Brooks, joining him on the hillside. "Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago." John nodded. "And sometimes it feels like yesterday." They watched as a new aircraft rose from the testing field beside the alien ship. It hovered silently, then shot upward at incredible speed before stopping instantly and hovering again. The craft used modified Craxian propulsion systems, one of the first successful adaptations. "How's the translation project coming?" Susan asked as they walked toward the facility entrance. "We've decrypted about 60% of their database," John replied. "The star maps alone have revolutionized our understanding of the galaxy. And their history files." He shook his head. "We're not the first species they tried to conquer, but we're the first to defeat them." Inside the command ship, William Porter and Karen Taylor led a team examining the quantum field generators that had once powered the alien weapons. The room buzzed with activity as scientists tested new devices based on Craxian technology. "The medical applications alone are incredible," Karen said, showing William her latest results. "Their regeneration technology can regrow damaged organs. We've already saved hundreds of lives." William nodded. "And the clean energy potential could end our dependence on fossil fuels within a decade." In what had once been Vexlar's private quarters, President Carter met with the captured commander. Greg Mitchell stood nearby, alert for any trouble, though the alien seemed resigned to his situation. "Your people will come looking for you," President Carter said through a translator. "What will they find?" Vexlar's alien features were difficult to read, but his voice carried a note of grudging respect. "They will find a species they gravely underestimated, as I did. And when they come, they will come with a larger fleet, many ships. But," Vexlar hesitated, "perhaps not for some time. Your Eclipse weapon concerns them. They will study first, from a distance." "Giving us time to prepare," the president noted. In Seattle, Lisa Winters had been given an entire research campus to develop new cybersecurity systems based on Craxian communications technology. Her work had already created unhackable encryption methods that were being implemented worldwide. Today, she was reviewing data from the long-range detection system that had been built using alien sensors. It could detect ships approaching from as far away as Pluto's orbit, giving Earth precious warning time if more Craxians appeared. But the sensors showed something else today, something unexpected. Lisa immediately called Susan. "I'm picking up signals from the direction of Tau Ceti. They're not Craxian." "Another alien species?" Susan asked, concern in her voice. "I think." Lisa hesitated. "I think they're trying to contact us. The patterns suggest communication, not threats." Around the world, humanity continued to rebuild cities destroyed in the invasion. But they built differently now, with defense in mind. Shield generators, based on Craxian designs but modified to resist their own weapons, protected major population centers. A new organization, the United Earth Defense Force, coordinated the global military response to potential future threats. Greg Mitchell had been appointed its first commander, working with international teams to prepare Earth's defenses. At the main UEDF base outside New York, a fleet of new spacecraft took shape. Built with recovered alien technology, they were humanity's first true starships. "They'll be ready for testing next month," an engineer told Greg during his inspection. Greg nodded, looking at the sleek vessels. "What's the range capability?" "The lead ship should be able to reach Mars in days, not months. With further refinements, we might reach nearby star systems within a few years." In Washington, President Carter addressed the United Nations in a rebuilt assembly hall. Representatives from every nation listened intently. "The Craxian invasion changed everything," she said. "They came to conquer us, to take our resources, to make us slaves. Instead, they gave us the stars." She gestured to the view screen showing Earth's new defense fleet. "We will never again be helpless in the face of aggression. We will never again be seen as easy prey." The room erupted in applause. In his cell, Vexlar watched the speech on a monitor. His expression was unreadable, but something like worry flickered in his alien eyes. He had come to understand these humans better during his captivity. They learned quickly, adapted rapidly, and they never, ever gave up. The Craxians had thought Earth would be easy prey. That mistake had cost them a fleet, revealed their technology, and given humanity the tools to reach the stars. And somewhere out there, 17 worlds conquered by the Craxian Empire waited to be freed.